Good afternoon. Welcome back. My name is James Hawkins. I'm a registered financial consultant. Today, I'm excited. I have a special guest here and also happy Black History Month to all that's watching. Today is an excited session today. We're going to talk about something that affects every household, every relationship, and every phase of your life. That is financial literacy as well as financial behavior. Money influences every choice you make. It influences where you live, how you live, some of the things you have and some of the things you don't have. It also influences the level of an individual or household stress. Money is one of the most important life tools we should learn. However, it's the less discussed topic in our communities, in our home, and in our schools. Today, I have a special guest with me. We're going to talk about a couple financial pillars. And today, we're going to have a special guest with me by the name of Miss Andrea King, and she's here to talk to us about budgeting. At this particular time, I would like for her to introduce herself. Ms. King.
Hello, my name is Andrea King. I'm a licensed mortgage loan officer and also a licensed insurance broker and health insurance broker.
Okay. Well, let me just say this here. There's two things in life that we get that does not come with instruction that I'm aware of. One of them is a baby, and the other one is a paycheck. In other words, you make money before you learn how money works.
That's right.
And some of us pay a very expensive lesson for that lack of education when it comes to finance. As I said, it is one of the most important life skills that we should have, but it's the least discussed topics in our community as well as in our school, as well as in our home. If you're like me, you probably grew up in that environment where you was told to go to school, get a good job, and go off work for 40 years and retire. However, there's a system to that. There's a strategy to that. And I always tell people you have to know the rules of the game in order to play the game. However, if you don't know the rules of the game, you're still playing the game.
That's right.
But that'll be the big determining factor where you wind up in life. So I think the foundation of any strong financial game plan starts with budgeting. That's why I asked you to come and talk to us today about budgeting and just how important it is. So if you will take this time and talk to us a little about budgeting and why it's so essential to establishing a financial game plan in an individual's life as well as their home.
When it comes to budgeting is your lifeline. Oh. Budgeting gives you clarity. It actually helps you to place yourself in a position of where you want to be in life. Whenever a lot of people hear the word budgeting, the first thing they think about is restriction. Actually, budgeting, what it does, it gives you a yes, but with a plan. If you don't have a plan to spend your money, somebody else will. And the problem is that one thing that I love to teach is that every dollar should have a name and a job to do.
Ooh, I like
Let me tell you this. If you don't make plans on how to spend your money, somebody else will. And there's two elevators that I always look at on wealth when it comes to wealth. And that's real estate and stocks. Those are the two elevators. Without a budget, how could you position yourself on that elevator to go up? You have two places to be at the table. You either be on the chopping table or at the table making your decisions. And I always tell everybody when it comes to budgeting, if you don't tell your money where to go, somebody else will. So it's very, very essential.
So you said that people often think about, when they hear the word budget,
yes,
they think about restrictions. But my perspective on it is not a restriction. It's an opportunity to restructure.
That's right.
So I like to talk about a real life reset when it comes to finance.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Now, what I like to first ask you, because I think the wealth process begins with education.
Yes, it does.
Being properly informed to make more informed decisions in order to improve your lifestyle, your quality of life. So at what age do you feel, or how soon should we start teaching our youth? I know I'm in a mentor program, and your kids participate in that program, and they're well-versed on budgeting strategy. At what age do you feel is necessary? Talk to this audience about that, because I think the sooner, and this is what I believe, starting early has its advantage in waiting comes with self-imposed penalty. Like I tell people, it's never too early to start, but it's always too late to wait. So tell me, please, what age do you feel we should start educating and informing our kids on the importance of budgeting?
Elementary. I say elementary. As soon as your child is able to add and subtract, and they're able to ask you for something in the store, they can understand money. Because we have to get to the root. I always tell my students whenever I teach budgeting, I wish someone would have told me how to have the younger me to take care of the older me. And that starts with learning how to play the game of money. So when you come to kids saying what age, I have worked with Mr. Wilbert Bell at Perrine Elementary. We did an elementary financial literacy class. And the way we had it structured with the young people is we had it to set up like they're at a flea market, and we gave them a budget to go out and spend. And we taught them the fundamentals of what's the difference between a need and a want. That starts from elementary. So the earlier you start them, the better they'll be off in life.
Okay. So the ideal of budget is to make sure your money knows exactly what it should be doing, where it should be. And one of the things I like to talk to my clients about is paying yourself first, how important it is to pay yourself first. You know, we look at our list of bills, we have everything on there except ourselves. You talked about the future you, if you would have known some things, what you could have did sooner to have such an impact on your life now. How important is it to budget in your expenses, paying yourself now for your future rewards from a let's say an income or asset standpoint?
So this is something that I was never taught. I was never taught to pay myself first.
And what exactly does that mean when you say pay yourself? Now, with paying yourself, where are you putting those funds? What are you doing with those things?
The best place to put those funds is in a high-yield savings account. A high-yield savings account help you grow a higher interest, help you earn a higher interest. And I actually brought something here to show everyone when it comes to budgeting. A lot of people don't have a spending problem, they have a money management problem because they wasn't taught.
You know, let me just interject. It's funny you say that because I recall years ago I was sitting with one of my mentors, and I was telling him that I needed about $8,000 a month for living expenses. He said, "Man, you don't have a money problem. You have a money management problem. You need $8,000 a month." And I thought that was funny. I often reflect on that. So go right ahead.
It's true, and that's something that a lot of people always. Well, I have a lot of clients that come to me. They'll tell me, "Miss King, I make $6,000 a year. I make $8,000 a year. A month." And they're telling me, "I don't know where my money is going." So this telling me that they don't have a spending problem; they have a money management problem. So if you're making $6,000 a month and you're living check to check, it's a problem there. So what we need to do is dissect and reconcile.
So is it fair to say if you need 100%, if you need 100% of all your money to live off, that means you have a problem?
You have a problem. So I have a 4-step plan that is easy. One thing about money and finance and budgeting, it has to be visual. You can't keep that in your head. If you do, you lose. You lose because there's no way that you know how many subscriptions that is linked to your account. How many times, your cell phone bill is increasing every month because you have it on automatic. In this day and age, we live on this automatic system. And what that means is that this cell phone is either doing two things for you. It's either making you money or taking money. It takes money because every time we see something pop up, "Ooh, I like that," and buy it. Buy it. You're buying it and not realizing it's subtracting. So it's a spending problem, now a money management problem. So I have a 4-step to money management. You can call it budget or money management. A lot of people don't like to use the word budget because of restrictions, so just change the name.
Well, I think everybody has a budget to some degree. Even the wealthy people have a budget. That's why they're wealthy.
That's why they're wealthy.
Go right ahead.
I always
remember when I went to a consignment store years ago, and I was in there. There's a gentleman that pulled up in this nice Mercedes-Benz, and I asked him, I said, "What is a guy like you driving a car like that doing in here?" He says, "Coming in place like this here has allowed me to drive those type of cars." I never forget that.
It's good to stay frugal sometimes.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
I enjoy it. So My 4th step to make it easy for my clients, I keep it simple. If you make it hard for yourself, you won't continue with it. I basically visit my budget every Tuesday of the month. The reason why I choose Tuesday, because I allow my weekend spending to post, at least by that Monday. So on Tuesday, I can go in and restructure my budget. So the first thing you want to do is know how much income that you come in. Know when it come in. So if you're writing it down, you have your income section. You're going to see here the dates, who got paid, was it the wife got paid or the husband, and how much they got paid, and your total monthly income come in. The next thing you want to do, step 2, is identify your fixed expenses, and these are the expenses that stays the same every month. You know that you got to pay yourself first, Mr. Hawkins. You see that? That's my first line on there. You got to pay yourself. Make it as an expense. Make it automatic. You make it automatically.
So in other words, you have to budget your retirement in as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, you want to prepare the younger you to take care of the older you.
Absolutely.
So the next thing you want to put is your rent or your mortgage, your auto, whatever fixed expenses that you have. The third section is your controllable expenses. There's expenses that's controllable. Your light bill is controllable because you can shut off some of those lights to keep your bill down. Your credit card is controllable. Your gas is controllable. Your online spending is controllable. So, and the 4th step is let's balance. You take your income, subtract your fixed expense, subtract your controllable. Now you can see if you're at a surplus, meaning you got saving, or you're at a deficit. Just that simple.
I notice you have on controllable expenses, you have kids.
Oh, yes.
So what's your navigation how do you navigate that process? Because now let me tell you, kids can we allow kids, in my opinion, sometimes become a very expensive matter because of, I guess, what we try to do is give our kids, maybe in some cases, it depends on what your demographic is, what maybe you didn't have and things of that nature there. But just give me some ideas. How do you go about managing that?
So with my kids, I have a 19-year-old that's in college. I have a 12-year-old that's in middle school and a 10-year-old that's in elementary. They have been on the structure from budgeting since they was able to add and subtract. So they already know how I am with budgeting. So I always let them know, if you want to go to the store to buy something, tell me if you're able to afford it on your own, because they all have their own allowance. So I don't use my money to spend most of the time. I let them use their money. But when I do spend my money, I have a limit. Each one of my kids can only get $10 out of my pocket when we go to the store. So that's how I keep myself in budget. You have to set a limit. A lot of people do not add kids in their budget. Kids are an expense.
So you balance your spending.
Yes, I balance it.
So you don't allow your emotions to dictate
No,
your
sir.
spending. You know, I have this acronym, I call it SWAP, SSWAP, saving and spending with a purpose.
Yes, spending with a
That's
purpose.
kind of like what I hear you saying, right? Wow. So anything else you'd like to share with us as it relates to budgeting? Because
yes.
First of all, I've witnessed your youth development programs, and they are absolutely amazing. I see the impact it makes on an individual, but I also see you do this at an adult level as well.
Oh, yes.
And I've also been a part of that, and I saw you give a illustration to some students about future spending, and you asked them to check their, what career they wanted, and then based on that career, what type of lifestyle they wanted to have.
It was a fun event.
Yeah, it was a great event because what you did, you gave them an idea of what that profession would probably pay them, and based on the income, the lifestyle they wanted did not fit the income. I often tell people, when you're on a budget, you have to really try to fit your lifestyle within that budget. And I think it's imperative because I think wealth is not something that happens overnight. It's not a quantum leap. I mean, it takes time. It takes a lot of discipline. And I think what happens in a lot of our communities, we lack the discipline as well as the information as well. So when I see you, I'm a part of that. I think what you're doing has a profound impact on the individuals you're talking to. So what about what type of savings account? You said you talked about a high yield savings. Can you please explain why do you recommend that as a starting point in terms of, and we're talking about our younger kids?
Now, when it comes to the younger kids, it's good to teach them first with funds hands-on, and so they can actually see the growth of their money of their money. So I would not start them with a bank account until they at least in high school are about to go to college, because you want it to be tangible, and so they can actually operate it. Because if it's in the bank at the young age, they are not really operating it. But when they get to see, like I can give an example, my kids, when it's time to go to the store, they have their spreadsheet out, and they'll subtract out $10 from their spreadsheet, and they'll know how much money they have, where it went. And when they come back, if they have change left, they will actually record that inside on their spreadsheet. So I think it's good to, when they're young, not to get an account until they're in high school or about to go to college. And a high yield savings account gives you a higher interest earning on your money versus a regular savings account. So that's what you want to do. If you're going to save money, allow your money to make money. And that's in a high yield savings account.
Here's one of the most important pillars, I think, as it relates to basic financial principles, is emergency savings.
Yes.
I have this acronym I call it 4 Ps. Prior planning prevents panicking.
That's right.
I say that because I use a lot of acronyms when I'm talking. And one of them is POMM, P-O-M-M. I call emergency money when you have enough to take care of any situation, perhaps unexpected situation. It provides you what I call with peace of mind money.
That's right.
And I think the worst thing can happen is you wake up in the morning with a toothache and you don't have a dental plan.
Oof.
Yes. So I think by having these mitigation processes in place to make sure that in the event something happened that you wasn't expecting to happen, you mitigate it by putting in an emergency saving plan. And I think the greatest definition I've ever heard given to the word responsibility is having the ability to respond when you least expect to have to do so.
That's right.
So I think it's so critically important that we start saving something towards our emergency fund.
Yes.
And here's why, because stress is our community. It's one of the stress is heavy in our community due to a lack of financial preparation. Preparation. What are some things or recommendation would you give folks to reset how they save over the next 12 months, 24 months? I often tell folks the first thing you want to do is start saving. Get in the habit and build good habits of saving your money. What piece of valuable information that you can give us on that?
You have to have a why.
Explain.
Why are you doing it? Because if you're telling someone just to save and they don't have no clarity or a why or a goal, it's not going to happen, as it's not going to continue. But if they have a clarity on a why, I can say for myself, I can give my experience. When I was pregnant with my third child, and I was 36 years old, and I told myself, in 10 years, I'm going to retire from this 8:30 to 5 job. So I have a why. So now I had to come up with a plan and a strategy. I had to learn how to budget. Budgeting was never taught to me. I had to teach it myself. I never saw my mom write down her bills before. I never saw my mom put away money. So I had to break that old tradition and to learn. There's so many resources at our fingertip that we can learn now. So I would say the first thing you need to do is write it down. Write down how much income is coming in your home. Write down your expenses. And when you see that I have a lot on my plate, a lot of debt, now it's time to reduce that debt. And you reduce that debt by the snowball effect. I'm going to turn this around. I even brought this. A debt reduction strategy here. And with this debt reduction strategy, it basically have you to list down all of your small debt to the largest one. And you attack the small one first. And that's one thing, when you start to alleviate some debt, you start to feel better.
Absolutely.
Because guess what? You don't knock down some stress. So once you start this debt reduction strategy and to eliminating the smallest one and then go to the next one, you start to feel better. So I would say, if I would have to give anyone any advice on where to start when it comes to budgeting, is to make it visual. You have to identify and write down all of your debt and have a plan.
Good. What does a good budgeting plan look like in a few words? What does a good budgeting plan look like?
Knowing your number, knowing how much income coming in, knowing how much debt going out, and knowing how much you're saving every month. And that was just the illustration what we just looked at. You got to know those. You got to know your number.
Now, that's relating to your everyday living, am I correct?
Correct.
So you want to have some type of accountability system
Yes.
to manage and monitor yourself so that way you don't lose control and you stay in control. So, I once heard a gentleman say, you want to make sure that your outgoing is never greater than your incoming, because your upkeep become your demise.
Correct.
So we have to be very conscious and intentional when it comes to our spending. And we have some folks are very emotional spending. Some people would spend money on the latest fashion versus preparing for their future. And here's what I think. I think a lot of the behavior come from what we witness, but I also think our philosophy when it comes to money has been shaped by various things. And I often tell people, if you want to change your life, you have to change the way you think about life.
Got to have clarity.
You have to have clarity. So you talked about the why. The why is that driving thing. But what
Correct.
I really see the why as, because without the why, those goals become negotiable.
Correct.
And when you attach them to the why, they become non-negotiable.
Correct. That's why you got to have clarity. That is your why, something that you're going to stand on. You have to, and that why for me was when I was 35. I want to make sure I didn't follow the narrative of retiring when you're 65. I was not doing that. So I was adamant, I was intentional about my why. So that kept me on my path of retiring when I was 45.
Okay, so when you talk about retiring early, a lot of folks think retirement is about age. But I want to share with everybody out there, retirement is not about age as much as it is about a number. That number is what they call the FIN number, the FIN, your financial independent number. Most folks in America have a retirement account, but do they have a financial independent account? But that simply means that you're no longer working for money to support your lifestyle. You're now perhaps, instead of working out of pressure, you're working out of position. So I strongly encourage everybody, when you're thinking about retirement, you definitely want to do what I call reverse engineering. You want to go out in the future and kind of get an idea of what that number looked like by establishing a FIN number, which is your financial independent number. And then you want to align your decisions and the choices you make with those numbers. And not only that, but also your behavior, because your behavior has everything. You have to just reset your thinking. You may have to reset your association. I tell you, there are so many things plays an impact in our decisions and the choices we make. And I often tell folks, association, your attitude, and things you attend, you definitely have to be in places and align your network with the things you see yourself having. I think that is so critically important. I know I've had my challenges, and most of them have been self-imposed, bad decisions in terms of managing money, not setting your priority, having your priorities in order, and there's so many things that factor in it. But I will say to everybody out there, regardless of where you are, it's never too late to get started.
Sure, it's not.
But it's always too late to wait. I often tell everybody I talk to when it comes to finances and creating a pathway to financial independence, you have the power over your past.
That's right.
And that's based on the decisions you make in relation to your income. And we have to learn to look at money. I can't say you have to, but I've been encouraged to learn to look at money a little different. Not see it as a reward, but see it as a tool. There is a different mindset when it comes to classes of people and how they see money, how they use money, and not how they allow money to use them. Either you're managing your money or your money is managing you.
Right.
Either way, I tell folks being broke and being wealthy is not by chance. It is by choice. It's by the decisions you make. Your choices will make you. Your life will reflect the choices you make. So I strongly encourage everybody to do a couple of things. Definitely start reading and learning about money for yourself. I know for myself, Ms. Skeen, growing up, I got a paycheck before I got a lesson on money. And on that paycheck, only thing they asked me to do was sign the paper on the back and go cash. There was never any instructions with it. It has been a very expensive lesson. So I say that, and there are some things I was informed of earlier, but again, a lack of discipline. So you have to be very intentional. You have to have a goal, and a lot of the things you said really have a major impact. So any other nuggets or pieces of advice on Thursday thoughts and tips for a real life reset you'd like to share with the audience?
I would like to say that when it comes to budgeting, for those of you that want to get your own home one day, the first thing you need to do is do your budget. As a mortgage loan officer, there's two things that stands in the way from you getting a loan. That's your debt to income ratio, which is reflected on your budget, and your credit score. You could have the best of credit score and your debt to income ratio is too high. You would not get approved for that loan. So I would say start on the budget. Write it down. You can't have it here. You have it here, you lose. Write it down. It's just as simple as that. Budgeting is the key. It's the only way that you're going to be able to sustain the older you, is by training the younger you on how to spend money.
If your last name is not Jones, don't let the Joneses be your determine how you spend your money, right?
It surely will not, because that Jones that you're looking at, you don't know if that's a facade. Because when they get home behind those closed doors, you don't know if it's check for check, but it looks good on social media. So
don't try to compete with folks.
It's not worth it.
Think about what matters to you and keep that. What I tell folks, keep the main thing, and keep your eye on your target and not on somebody else's target. So I want to thank you for joining us. Okay, this is amazing. I love talking about finance. We're going to be doing this more and more, because I think the more we are empowered with this information, the better choices we can make and the better financial experience we can have as we move through our the 3 phases of retirement. And that's something we'll talk about at a later time, which is the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, and the distribution phase. It's important that we should know exactly what needs to be going on at different stages as it relates to our financial journey over our many years of working. And the accumulation is simply when you go out there, you begin, when you first start working up to the age of 55, you're establishing a lifestyle, building and growing a family, and finding your identity in this world. And then when you hit 55, you begin to reflect. That's your preservation stage. This is when you really have to become very conservative and pay attention to your money, because you don't have as many years to make up as you did when you were younger. And, when the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest, Einstein said it, and it is important. So you don't have as much time to make up for mistakes and things of that nature. And then you go into 63, which is your distribution stage. At this stage here, you're not chasing high rates and returns. You are preparing for money, income that would outlive you. But that would be another section. I want to thank this amazing young lady for joining me on this Thursday. Great information shared today. Anything you'd like to say in the closing?
Yeah, if you're looking for someone to help you with your financial literacy, to teach you at your schools or in your class, contact me at 786-942-7049.
I want to thank you for joining me today. And that'll be it for this evening. Look forward to seeing you all on the next time we are in front of this amazing camera.